What if I told you that one of ancient Egypt's most powerful pharaohs was a woman, who had to transform herself into a king to survive? In a world ruled entirely by men, where the throne was inherited by sons and guarded by tradition, one woman did the unthinkable. She didn't just rule behind the scenes. She crowned herself pharaoh. Her name was Hatshepsut. Born the daughter of Pharaoh Thutmose I, Hatshepsut was raised inside the royal court of Egypt's 18th dynasty. She wasn't an outsider. She understood politics, religion, and power from a young age. But even with royal blood, there was one unspoken rule: Egypt was ruled by men. She later married her half-brother, Thutmose II, as tradition required. When he died unexpectedly, the throne was meant to pass to a young boy, Thutmose III. The child was too young to rule, so Hatshepsut stepped in as regent. At first, it seemed temporary. A queen managing affairs until the boy grew up. But something changed. Within a few years, Hatshepsut made a bold and calculated decision. She declared herself pharaoh of Egypt. Not queen. Not regent. Pharaoh. This was unprecedented. To secure her authority, she understood something crucial. Power in Egypt was symbolic. Pharaohs were seen as divine, earthly representatives of the gods. And those images were masculine. So she adapted. Statues began to depict her with broad shoulders and a royal kilt. Reliefs showed her performing sacred rituals traditionally reserved for male kings. She even wore the ceremonial false beard, a symbol of kingship and divine authority. This wasn't about identity. It was political genius. She wasn't pretending to be a man. She was embodying the role of pharaoh in the only way society would accept. And it worked. Her reign lasted over 20 years, and it was marked not by war, but by stability and prosperity. Instead of endless military campaigns, she focused on economic expansion and monumental architecture. One of her greatest achievements was the famous trade expedition to the land of Punt. Egyptian ships returned with gold, incense, ebony, ivory, and exotic animals. This strengthened Egypt's economy and elevated its prestige across regions. She also commissioned massive construction projects across Egypt. Her most famous monument still stands today: her mortuary temple at Deir el-Bahari. Built into towering limestone cliffs, the structure is symmetrical, elegant, and far ahead of its time architecturally. It wasn't just a tomb. It was propaganda in stone, reinforcing her divine legitimacy and eternal power. Under her leadership, Egypt experienced what historians often describe as a golden period. Trade flourished. Temples were restored. Infrastructure expanded. There were no major internal collapses, no economic disasters, no chaos. So if her reign was so successful, why don't we hear about her as often as other rulers? Because after her death, something strange happened. Years later, many of her statues were destroyed. Her images were chiseled away from temple walls. Her name was removed from king lists. It was as if someone tried to erase her from history. Many scholars believe this was ordered during the later reign of Thutmose III. Perhaps it was political consolidation. Perhaps it was an attempt to restore traditional male lineage. Or perhaps it was fear of setting a dangerous precedent, a woman proving she could rule as effectively, if not better, than men. But erasing her name didn't erase her impact. Archaeologists eventually uncovered her monuments, her temple, her inscriptions. Piece by piece, history reconstructed her story. And what emerged was not a placeholder ruler or a temporary regent. It was a strategist, a visionary, a master of political symbolism. Hatshepsut didn't conquer vast territories through bloodshed. She conquered expectations. She navigated a rigid patriarchal system not by rebelling loudly, but by mastering it from within. Her story forces us to rethink power. Leadership isn't always loud. Strength isn't always violent. Sometimes the most revolutionary act is strategic adaptation. In the shadows of pyramids and the legacies of warrior kings, her name rises again, not as an exception, but as proof that authority belongs to those who understand it. If you want more hidden stories from ancient history, stories they tried to erase, subscribe and stay with this series. Because the past still has